Hey everyone. Good evening if you're like us on the East Coast, and good morning if you are on the other side of the world. It's so nice to see everybody. It's the virtual Dalcroze meetup, and we've got a really nice a nice presentation plan for today. I'm Stephen Neely. I'm your co-host and co-founder of the VDM. I'm here with my dear friend Veronica Boleski, and we want to welcome everybody to which one is this? 83? How many have
Mm,
we got now? I think this is
83.
meetup number 83, which is ridiculous. We're in our fifth year. I think we just celebrated our 5 year
Mhm.
anniversary, which honestly it feels like a blink. And we've had 83 times where we've pulled together some good friends from around the world just to say hi about music and movement and Dalcroze, but also things peripheral and adjacent. So, and tonight we get a little bit of extra of that. Um, when we have a slightly larger group, we often go into breakout rooms, but because the group is small tonight, we're just going to quickly say hi so that we all know who's here. We say our name and where we're from and who do we teach. And so I'm Stephen Neely. I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I work mostly with university students and a little bit of adult teacher training. And I think that's pretty good. That's who I teach. Teo, I nominate.
I'm Teo, also in Pittsburgh, studying at Carnegie Mellon since I plan to teach teenagers about diverse people in tech history using song and story.
Excellent. Catherine?
Hi, I'm Catherine Smith. I'm in Perth in Western Australia, and I teach primary school age children, so 4 or 5 year olds through to 11, 12 year olds in a school setting.
Love it. Francoise?
Hi, I'm Françoise. I'm living in Montreal. I'm Swiss. I'm teaching Dalcroze. I'm giving some training to the Dalcroze students here in Canada. And this is it. I'm also teaching a little bit older people right now with cognitive problems. And yes, that's it.
Good. And then our guests this evening are Claire and Sean. So Claire,
Hi, my name is Claire. I am in Pittsburgh, PA right now, and I am primarily a flutist. So I teach flute privately and have a little bit of background taking classes from Stephen in Dalcroze. So.
My name is Sean Andres. I'm also here based out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'm mainly a songwriter and an entrepreneur. I've been songwriting for quite a while, and through that, I've gotten into the Lullaby Project, where I have been involved in teaching and doing songwriting program with as young as a couple months old, and as old as as old as adults can get while still doing music. So, yeah, thanks for having us.
we're so excited to host you both and to hear about your project. Veronica, I hand it over to you.
I am in Boston and I in the United States, and I teach kids ages 3 to 12, and then for Dalcroze classes, then I teach private flute and piano lessons to kids and adults. So in the agenda, you'll see that our upcoming dates are in a Google Doc or the Google Calendar. There's just a couple things left in this season, and then in a couple months, we'll be announcing our next events for September and on. The master classes that are coming up are with Fumiko Honda Bauer, who will be talking about or doing work about early childhood, so the 0 to 4 age range. And then Francoise, who's here tonight, is going to be teaching a short course. Francoise, do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, I had the idea through these three lessons to start with totally simple means just playing one voice, just one voice at a time. All kinds of things that we can do just with one finger or a couple of fingers or one hand or the other hand, and that's it. And the second lesson will be maybe to do two voices together, either with a pedal or something, an ostinato, and the other voice moving and then maybe changing or dialoguing, having a dialogue between the two hands one after the other, or having an ostinato somewhere else in the soprano, anything that we can do easily with two voices. And I will insist on not thinking so much about harmonies and things like that, but just follow the ear and find one's way in a simpler way, if I can say so. And the third lesson will be depending on what we do in the first and the second. We might add maybe another voice or play some chords also, and do easy things with playing chords and modal, or we'll see. That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, I think we'll pass it on to Claire and Sean, and you guys can share about your project, and then we'll have a chat afterwards.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, we're really excited to talk about the Lullaby Project today, and curious to see what overlap there is in Dalcroze teaching. I know I have pretty limited experience in Dalcroze, but I know enough to know that there's a lot of similarities between what we do. So just give you a little bit of background on the Lullaby Project, which is an international project. It was started in New York City through Carnegie Hall in 2012. So it's been around for a little while, and it's kind of branched off into all different sorts of formats. That's one of the beautiful things about it, is that it can really be crafted for the individual community that it lives in, to be catered to the population that you want to work with and serve there. So here in Pittsburgh, it started as actually a course at Carnegie Mellon University. It was a collaborative project in music entrepreneurship. And Sean and I were both a part of that initial course. And essentially, all lullaby projects share at their core, they are projects that connect musicians to new parents, expecting parents. And again, that population can vary, but here in Pittsburgh, we've worked mostly with women who have experienced birth trauma. Our program has been more focused on trauma-informed care, and the lullaby is serving as a way for mothers to really bond with their babies and tell their stories in a way that feels cathartic and genuine to them. And so we've worked with an obstetric anesthesiologist here in Pittsburgh, and we've kind of started to branch out into working with bereaved parents as well. A lot of lullaby projects work with women who are in prison, seniors. There's a whole range to this, but after it was a university course in Pittsburgh, then Sean and I took it out of that setting, and it became a truly community-based project. So basically the way that it works in the sessions, we have kind of three different models that we work with. One is kind of our flagship standard model, which is where we have a small group of parents and musicians, usually about 6 families, 6 musicians, 4 to 6. And we start in a small group circle where we have a welcome, and we really try and set a tone of openness, warmth, curiosity, I would say. And so then after that, we'll talk more about that in a second. But after that group session, then we break off into one-on-one sessions where each family gets at least one musician to work with to craft their lullaby. And then we come back and kind of debrief and share what it was like, and share the songs, how much of the song was created. And that's the standard session. We also have group songwriting, which is usually about an hour and a half, where we have maybe 3 to 5 families, and we all work on the same song in that session. So that's another kind of collaboration that is pretty different from the individual songwriting sessions. And then we also have a more children's focused type of session. Maybe Sean, can you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, after we started working and piloting these different variations of the program, we had a program, it's an after-school program in Pittsburgh called the Dragon's Den, that approached us to see if we can take this same idea of collaborative songwriting and apply it to their students there, which age range, I believe, between 5 and 13, maybe, rough age. And it's very mixed age, so all their activities are all done together, and they don't separate by age group. So we've taken a similar model based around collaborative songwriting, but the approach that we've found works a little bit better with that age group is making it more DAW focused, so like digital audio workspace focused, and using like instruments like little keyboards, and talking about like the elements of a song, like what makes a song. There's bass, rhythm, melody, things like that. Because what some of these students may, I guess the difference between them and our typical population, oftentimes just like vocabulary skills and just like verbal skills to be able to write, to write a song and get into like the more complex emotions. But what some of these students may lack in that verbal and written comprehension, they certainly make up for in their ability and willingness to just play on a keyboard and experiment and just pluck around on different notes and tackle all the other elements of the song. So, and that what we typically try to do is keep very small groups, maybe like 3 to 4, and have a collective song, like to be writing a collective song, but having one student at a time be the lead or the person at the keyboard, that's like being the person who generates the main ideas, which is really great to teach, first of all, patience, and like knowing when to contribute your ideas. It's been really interesting and exciting to watch the students start to understand the value in letting somebody else have their turn, and then be able to give feedback when appropriate, and then get their own turn. And it's nice to see them cheer each other on. But yeah, that's the way we've kind of focused the similar like songwriting program, but for a much younger age, using like the process as like the goal and the focus rather than having a finished product.
Yeah, and that's one thing about kind of our overall process and some of the things we think about a lot in designing and facilitating the sessions is that it's incredibly collaborative, that we are teaching artists, but we're not really teaching, it's more facilitating, and we're taking our cues so much more from the participants than we are really teaching them anything because they're inherently musical. And so I think a lot of what we try and do is just cheer them on in that and kind of highlight, some of the lyrics that they write, how the music is already within that. And one of the greatest compliments we can get, and one of the things we really work towards, is when anyone participating says that it's their song, because that's truly what we want them to feel, that it is their song, that we are the ones performing the song, maybe, sometimes, and we encourage the parents to perform with us, but it should be their story and their song, regardless of how much of a musical background that they have. So as artists, kind of understanding our role and also the power dynamics at play. So kind of 3 ways we have and think about in engaging with the parents we work with is asking questions that are very open-ended, not assuming anything about their experiences or their preferences in music. Then we have kind of some elaborations, so where we're kind of in the brainstorming with them and we're like, adding our ideas as well, but it's a back and forth, it's a conversation, and like they have an idea, we say, oh, okay, like what if we try this or maybe this, and trying to be non-judgmental about that and just offering other options, and then encouragements as well. So making sure that it feels like a safe space, especially for a lot of these parents, it can be a vulnerable thing to share about a challenging birth experience. And so that takes some sensitivity and knowing that sometimes, it's better to listen to understand than to respond. And so making sure that there is space in the session to do that, and being okay with silence sometimes. And let's see, the other thing, well, I know we do want to share some songs if there's time. But the other thing that I might mention before, Sean, maybe you can talk about the recording a little bit, is yeah, being fully present with the participants and noticing where it feels like their strengths are and just letting them guide the session as much as possible. So asking what they love, going with that, and lifting those up as much as we can.
Great. So, as part of our process, we like to try to capture some kind of audio, so that the participants can remember the experience. That can be an intimidating thing to suggest or to bring up before they've even started writing the song, because oftentimes there's a lot of worry behind, like, oh gosh, we only have an hour and a half. How are we going to have a finished song, let alone something to like record and like be ready to record and have something, you know, that lasts forever. So we really try to emphasize from the very beginning. Again, it's not about having a finished studio quality, you know, recording. It really is about the process. So either way, we do try to capture audio. It just depends on at what time do we capture it and what kind of quality are we going for. So during the session, I guess the most basic type of recording we can capture is just as simple as on your phone, a little audio memo, like, hey, let's run through this line that we just recorded or that we just came up with on the spot. Simple audio recording like that. You know, listening back years later can still have a really profound effect. Typically, almost in all cases, we typically do finish, like end up with a finished song, which is really funny how that works out, given just like the uncertainty that everybody has beforehand. So in the group sharing circle at the end, we typically have just like one or two microphones that we can just very discreetly switch directions, because we're usually sitting in a circle. So we just tilt the microphone to try to capture the best kind of audio. But in situations like that, we're not worried about, again, like studio quality, because I think there is something to the aspect of having what we call a crowd noise, or just like the noise of the room. Oftentimes there's one or multiple babies in the room. So hearing little noises, like extraneous like noises along with the recordings, or just like audience reactions to certain lines or things, can be really awesome to capture in the recording. I think really helps, especially now that we've been doing this for a couple years now, as I've looked back at recordings that we've done now over 2 years ago now, listening back to those more raw recordings, it really puts you in a place, in a time, hearing just like the room noise, especially for those people who are there and experiencing the session, to be able to look back on their experience, to hear the way that, you know, their baby made that noise right after the second verse, just really just sets you and grounds you really in that space and time, and can be really cool for reflection. Now, in times where we, you know, a session was like extremely successful, and the songwriters build out more parts than and like instrument parts that are just available in that one musician in the session can play, we'll be able to get a larger, more studio quality recording with like a built out arrangement, you know, not just like a solo guitar or keyboard or whatever the accompanying instrument is. And that could be really cool too. Slightly different than like the more raw room recording, because what I find is how impressive the end result can be, and like how validating it can be, I guess, for like the quality of the musical content that's being recorded and being written by these parents, oftentimes who don't even have any musical experience. So hearing their musical writing in a studio quality kind of sound up against people who are professional like songwriters, it's really just amazing to see what everybody's capable of, which is what we believe is that everybody can be like inherently musically talented and like generative. So yeah, that's typically just our recording process. It depends on the type of session, and but mainly just to try to capture the moment and the raw emotion that's experienced on that day.
We would love to hear some recordings.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. We have a couple. So we're going to share one from one of our most recent sessions. And this is one where the parents did sing the song. So let me see. Okay. Advanced audio. Okay. Okay, I think it's sharing. Let me start the song. Okay, so this is called I've Been Waiting for You. And I actually wasn't at this session. Sean, do you have any just quick comments to share about this particular song?
Yeah, I actually wasn't. I was at this session, but I didn't work with this family, so I only got the brief summary that they gave when they shared in the circle. But essentially, they had a really traumatic experience after the birth of their child, so much so that they felt like they missed a lot of the good that came of those moments and the moments after their second child's birth. So they wanted to write this song to kind of give themselves a new memory and allow themselves to kind of reframe and reinvent, what that experience and what that time of their life was, to give them something more positive to look back on.
Can everyone hear that? No. Okay. My computer's. Sorry. Computer audio. Dairy. Let me try this. Oops. Okay. Can you all hear that?
The London eye was pink, Mummy's toes were blue. We took a taxi cab to come and meet you, and I've been waiting for you. And Ben was big and the world was too. Henry was small and Henry was new, and I've been waiting for you. We took you home to our little London flat. We had every kind of takeaway and packed up all we had. Took 10 flights before you even turned one. And finally Mom and Daddy flew you right here. The London eye was pink, Mummy's toes were blue. We took a taxi cab and Grandma flew, and I've been waiting for you. And Ben was big and the world was too, and Henry was small and Henry was new, and I've been waiting for you. Want you to be abundant and free, to dance the way you want and tell your own story, to know where you come from and choose where you go. The most important, we want you to know. The London eye was pink, Mummy's toes were blue. We took a taxi cab to finally meet you. I've been waiting for you. And Ben was big and the world was too. And Henry was small and Henry was new. And I've been waiting for you. And the sky smiled bright and we smiled too. We've been waiting for you.
So that song was written in about 2 hours, I would say, and within meeting everybody. And so I don't know how easy it was to hear some of the words. That was maybe a little tough, but yeah, I think it's what we really want is for the parents to be singing to their children at home and to be connecting with them. And so to have the parents, especially singing the song themselves, is amazing. But I know we're probably up on time a little bit. Oh, maybe I have a
You're
couple.
okay.
Okay. Um, I just want to share some of the questions that we think about again, and these are kind of bigger things that I think I'm curious what your all's take on it is as Dalcroze practitioners too. But um, just as musicians and as teachers, how our ego plays a part in the collaborative process. Something that, to me, as a performance major, was kind of a challenge, and still is a challenge sometimes in the songwriting and collaboration process. Um, Kind of having a balanced ego, feeling like you can contribute things, but making sure you leave space for other people's ideas as well. And you know, I think the power dynamics question is a big one in the teaching role, maybe a little more. Um, but and then the other thing kind of related to that is what skills are we teaching in music school? And balancing knowledge versus curiosity and flexibility, being okay with failure. And something that I experienced in the Dalcroze classroom was like those moments where you're not with the beat and like kind of the joy that there can be in that. Um, Leaning into those moments and letting them guide you in a new direction, or rather than thinking, oh, that's wrong, like that music has to be so rigid. And so I think what I've learned a lot in the Lullaby Project work is that there's so much musicality within people, and that I feel like I've learned so much more than we've given these parents. I feel like in the sessions, like I'm given a gift every time that we work with them, um, because there's so much depth to their stories. And um, yeah, I think people have a lot to say, and that music can be an amazing way for them to say it. So yeah, what skills are we teaching in music school? Um, that's that's been something that I've thought a lot about since starting this work in Lullaby Project.
So good. Thank you both so much for coming and sharing with us. It's already a really special meetup. I'm excited for more people to get a chance to come and watch this video with us. I'm gonna, um, well, I had to turn off my video so I could go grab a notebook and start making notes at a point during that. Sorry if you can hear my puppy barking in the background. The, um, so I got a whole bunch of things that I'm thinking about. I think the one that I'll just lead with, but then I really want to hand it over to everybody else to get into this conversation. I think what's fun about presenting this work at the virtual Dalcroze meetup, is not just that, oh, here's some cool musicians doing some cool, really beautiful work, and work to be commended and work to be replicated, and work that should be making us all kind of think about how are we managing our own classrooms, but also what is the kind of commonalities, and they're multiple, between what's going on in your space and the kinds of things that we're doing in a Dalcroze room. I think the biggest commonalities are philosophical, and the one that you mentioned a couple times, and I'll just say it, is that we assume in every Dalcroze classroom that everybody in the room is musical. There's no like, are you good enough to be in this room or not? That's never a question, and I don't believe it was a question from Jacques Dalcroze when he started. The way I like to think of the story is he met his first students before his work was anything. He just met new students thinking he was going to teach normal music lessons. And when they didn't deliver the feedback that he assumed he would get, he could have just yelled at everybody and kicked them out and told them they were horrible musicians and didn't know enough to be in his classroom. But instead, he kind of looked back at himself and thought, well, how can I be different? What could I be doing? And what could we learn together if we started working? And so just starting from a place that says every non-musician and musician in this room is deeply musical, innately musical. It's already there. And so our job is to foster that, is to facilitate. And I heard that in everything you were saying. And I think that's something that I believe deeply about the Dalcroze work as well. I got all kinds of notes. I could keep on yapping, but or asking questions. What else did anybody else hear? What do you want to ask or comment on?
Well, I think it's very, very powerful what you're doing there. And it must not be easy, as you say. Sometimes it's a challenge for professional musicians just to, but it has a human a side of it which is incredibly important, because we know that music is carrying love and affection and all of that, and that everyone should have access to that. And not only do they have access to music, but they create their music with their own words. So the feeling of existing within what they are doing must be absolutely wonderful. And it's really moving. Just listening to this song is wow. It's a universe. It's a world in per se. It's really wonderful. And to give this freedom also, but within some you give also a kind of a frame. Then they need a frame if they have no ideas of so just to support them, and then they can find their way within this frame. Or I don't know exactly how you work, but it's absolutely beautiful. And I think yes, it's also for me as a Dalcroze teacher also important to remember how much, even though Dalcroze was very open and Stephen said, well, he would just help anybody become a better musician or better human being. When we start teaching and we teach and we have knowledge and we have experience and we have all of that, sometimes do we give enough space and freedom, really, and confidence to the people so that they can really express their own musicianship and their own feelings? And that's always a question that remains somewhere, in me. But thank you very much for sharing that. It's beautiful.
Thank you,
you.
Francoise. Teo, I
I
see
see it.
Right, that the music moves, and so the telling them that they can create their own music, their own way to express things, that they didn't like this memory, this story that they had, and so they were using this song, this music to create a new way to look at what had happened and show it moving a different way.
Very
Yeah,
good.
That
Veronica?
sorry.
Oh no, go ahead, Claire.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You had just there are a whole bunch of things that you said that I'd love to know more about. The one that was just seemed kind of simple was you said, "Oh, when we meet new people, we have an opening exercise." Can you describe how are you breaking the ice? How are you setting the tone? What is the exercise, or what kinds of things might you do in that session?
Yeah, we one of our favorite ones is to ask people what an early musical memory is that they have. So for me, that was like singing. I have a couple, but the one I keep coming back to is singing with my dad. He would sing with me at night, Do Re Mi, from the song Sound of Music. And so that's a special memory for me. And as we go around the circle, if people sing a little bit of it, then we'll kind of play it together, so just to get music moving in the room. And we also sometimes we ask, like, what was the last song you played on your phone? Something like that, to get music going as soon as we can in the room. And just, if people are a little on the fence, they have to just give them that encouragement that they have musical opinions and styles and things that they like and don't like.
Yeah, to that point of basically assuming that someone is musically talented or musically capable. Like we love when someone's early music memory is a song that we don't know, because then it's so easy to just say, I'm not familiar with that. Can you just like share a little bit of that? Like, can you just like sing a line or two, and immediately before they know it, they're not thinking of it in like a perform. Oh gosh, I'm performing now. They're just like sharing it, like they're just telling a story in a way, and it feels like a little bit less barrier to entry. And before they even realize they're already participating in musically past what they thought they were capable.
There's kind of a pro, I don't know if sometimes we call it the pro tip or the, advanced teacher move, that's being displayed here, which, and I'm just thinking about people who might be watching this recording after the fact, who, who have all different levels of background. And which is the pro tip, or the pro move here is treating everybody in the room like, well, of course you're capable of this. Like when you're saying, oh, can you just share a little bit of that with us? It's not, oh, I hope you feel secure enough to sing a little bit. You wouldn't want to feel insecure and think someone's going to giggle at you. Instead, the way you worded it, which I'm sure is exactly how it's coming through, is, oh, can you just, like, I have full confidence. I have no reason to doubt that you could sing a little bit of that for me. You probably will. And that's going to be read in my tone. My subtext is, well, of course you're going to sing a little bit for us, and I'll say it in the nicest way that I can, but I don't have any reason to think you wouldn't. And so, and I don't know, there's something in the subtext space in every classroom I've ever been in, regardless of the age of the students, little kids and high school students and older people, where if I appear hesitant in the least, they can smell it. And they'll grab a hold of that hesitancy and use it as the excuse to not get anywhere. And if I act like I'm completely oblivious to the fact that somebody could be hesitant here, and that there could be any reason at all that they might not be good enough to do a thing, then it sometimes doesn't occur to them, and it seems to build a little bit of extra confidence in the room. I say that at the same time acknowledging that one of the other things that you said early on is that some of the people you're working with have been through a lot, and everything isn't easy. And so I'm sure there's a sort of extra amount of care that you already have alluded to, that is, how much can we ask before, we would back somebody into a corner that they are not willing to come out of. I don't know if you want to talk about that a teeny bit. You mentioned trauma-informed care, and actually, I think anybody now working in a modern classroom kind of setting is, I feel like we're all a little bit more aware of those words, when I really wasn't asked to be 8 years ago, 6 years ago. And now I feel like there's more and more need. And yeah, so I don't know if you want to talk about that a teeny bit.
Yeah, definitely. It's it's something actually interesting in working in the university setting, that because we started as student musicians, and now we're running the project, and we have gone back to the university and worked with some students. And so we have seen that, again, like it kind of takes a special sensitivity and training to be able to work in a setting like this and feel confident in it. But yeah, the things that we talk about and practice as much as possible is listening to understand and not to respond. Actually, I should back up for a second. Setting up the environment so that they know the expectations, and or the that they're in charge of the session, giving them the power. Will you guide us? If you want to take a break, you take a break. Like, we're here to facilitate this experience that is yours. This is your experience. And we usually have someone, actually we have always had a doctor with us as well, a therapist. So just someone, if they need to take a break in another room, they can do that. But yeah, being present, listening to understand, preparing ourselves, actually taking time to reflect, make sure that we as musicians are in a healthy space before the session, that we've checked in with ourselves, because it can be very heavy. And I think you need to be grounded in order to hold space for somebody else in hearing a story like this, so that you can be there for them as they experience some of the emotions, and so that you don't take it on in the moment so that it is truly theirs. That's something that we think about a lot. Yeah.
And to add on a little bit on there too, just it was mentioned like the word ego was brought up. Always keeping like a balanced ego. Oftentimes people say, "Oh, you need to take your ego out of it. Take your ego out of it." But that's like a misinterpretation of what ego is. Ego is to understand your self-importance and to have your like an understanding of your self-esteem and having that be in check. It's an overinflated ego that oftentimes can create problems, or the opposite, taking your ego out of it completely, then you lose your sense of self and yourself, the importance that you bring to the situation. So like in that kind of situation where someone is needs that space held for them, losing your ego can be not the best thing because you don't want to be disassociated and withdrawn from the situation. So really keeping that in balance can create a really good collaboration because it is more in balance in that way.
Really nice. There's so I think the methods that are going on, we can brainstorm a little bit more about the ways that the methods maybe are more similar than they might appear at the first glance. But the philosophy behind so much of what you're doing, I think, has just 100 things in common with what we try to expect of ourselves as Dalcrozians, or what we're trying to instill in our teachers that are coming up. One of them is the student-led opportunities and the value of what it is the student is bringing. So obviously, not every Dalcroze-based lesson is fully student-led, but we have tons and tons of spaces for improvisation and for student creativity. And then we also are often, or not often, like we are regularly looking for ways to recognize the creativity of the student in whatever it is that they're doing. So some of it is classroom management technique. Oh, I could yell at you for being a little crazy in the corner, but instead I'll grab a hold of the thing you were doing crazy in the corner and find a way to include it in the exercises that we're doing. Other cases, it's who's got an answer for the prompt that I've got. I've got a little idea. I'm curious who's got an answer, and then trying to find ways to make use of every one of those answers, rather than saying, it's not a good enough answer. Let's go to somebody else who's smarter than you. So we have a sort of a regular kind of philosophy of, no, you are, of course, deeply musical to begin with, and your answers or your ideas, your creativity, your risky taking, your antsiness, it's valued. And so let's find a way to sort of point out what you just did. And now, how about we all do it? We'll all do the thing that you just did. And now I'll go to the piano and I'll accompany what you just did. And now we'll all do it again. And now it's somebody else's turn to show us something. And some of that model is it seems like it's exactly in what you're describing. We've got a basic prompt. Somehow you're getting people to offer up some new ideas. Of course, rather than saying, it's not a good enough idea, that doesn't rhyme, or whatever. We said, no, let's go with it. Let's play with that thing. And then somebody's accompanying it, at least in that last exercise. And you've mentioned piano and guitar and I don't know what else. So if the people in the room that you're working with don't play an instrument, but one of you do, it's such a validation to have somebody accompany you. We work on it regularly. It's a major strong arm in our classrooms, where if I can just get anybody to do anything and then I accompany it, like it means that the thing that they were doing is so important that I would sort of take a backseat to your soloing. And to me, that's always been this kind of very precious, like, oh, you mean the 5-year-old is in charge of the adult? Like where else in their life do they get that? And I think there's something similar here, where if the non-musician has come up with a couple of lyrics or has come up with a little bit of melody, and all of a sudden the professional musician is going to accompany them and not sing, but just be there to support, it gives such a worth, like a kind of validation to what they've come up with, that I would feel encouraged to keep on going if somebody did that for me. So I don't know. There are a number of things we can keep talking. I don't know if Veronica or Catherine or if anybody else has thoughts. I can also ask Claire. I don't know.
I'll share.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Just wanted to say thank you for playing the recording. It made me tear up just to hear the power of their words and clearly how much they were loving singing it. It was really incredible to hear that. And I really held on to your question, Claire, about what skills are we teaching in music school? And I feel like since leaving music school, I've just been fighting in my own playing for this expression and connection to myself and what my emotions are and what I want to share. And realizing how I was never asked for that in music school. I was always asked for virtuosity and perfection and accuracy. And I'm really trying to set up something totally different for my students now, where accuracy and expression are both equal, and that we have some times where we focus on the expression and other times, yeah, you have to play an F sharp if it's set in F sharp in the music. But I really changed my language instead of saying, that's not correct. It's just not what's on the page. And the reason you need to play what's on the page is because when you want to play with other musicians, you've all agreed to play this thing that's on the page. And I keep saying that all the time. It's not wrong. Like, this is your way with an F natural, that's fine. But just know that when you go and play it together with someone else and they're playing an F sharp, it's going to be a surprising sound. And it's not a bad sound, it's just surprising. And I find that with parents, I'm often speaking about that at my studio recitals, everyone gets to pick their own thing. And sometimes it's their composition, and sometimes they, added the F naturals to that piece that was in D major. And then there's other times where in the rhythmic solfege classes, we all get the same song and we have to perform it at the end of the year for a little jury. And it's very different from my here's your idea. And so-and-so is doing a duet with their dad. There are times in life when you have to, perform the thing that's been given to you and you don't get to choose what it is. But how can you still have your own sense of self and have your own process and feel proud of this and do it in your own way and trust that even when you're being accurate, no one's going to perform it quite the same way as you. And to just have that balance. And I really appreciated your phrase of a balanced ego. And yeah, just thank you for sharing.
That's something I think about a lot in my teaching as well, teaching flute lessons. Like, how am I asking the questions of, where do you think this phrase will go? While I was taught this very specific way to play this piece, and that there is a right way, and that right way even might go beyond the notes on the page. It's like the phrasing goes like this because it does, because that's how people have played it forever, and inviting the experimentation within the structure of music that we have is a challenge. Thanks for sharing that.
I was reflecting on when you asked that question about what are we teaching in music schools, because I'm not in a music school, I'm in a school, but I'm the music teacher. And I feel like it's a constant, I'm constantly, I don't know if battle's the right word, but constantly reflecting on trying to find that balance between maybe what I want to teach and what I have to teach. I'm not sure if that's the right way to put it, because we do have a national curriculum, and I don't choose what year ones learn and year twos learn in music. There is stuff I'm supposed to be teaching them, and by and large it's sensible, fine stuff. There's a progression there in terms of concepts and so on. But when you work in a school context with teachers who are primarily teaching literacy and numeracy, because that's primary school, it's different to be a teaching artist, to have that art side of you, and to be working alongside it in a organization where everything else can be measured. And so I feel like I'm constantly trying to reassess, well, there's bits that I have to do in my job and that's fine, but am I going, I'm constantly trying to find that balance between, have I gone too far this way? Have I gone too far that way? Have I gone too far this way and am I not doing my job? Have I gone too far into what everyone else might think of as my teaching job and I'm not bringing enough of the music and the art? So I was thinking about that as you were talking about these wonderful, such human, worthwhile experiences and opportunities that you're bringing to people. It just really struck me. I mean, you would obviously, this is why you do it, but just how valuable it is, what it is that you're doing, and how what a contribution to other people's lives it is. So yeah, that's what I was thinking about.
Thank you.
In my teaching, we say the role of music, that is what music is good for, is to feel, or to make feel, sometimes I'll say. But if the music that is in the room is only over there in the room, it's just kind of noises or it's soundscape, or it's background, then it's not quite doing its role. It's not really doing its job. And the actual power of music, and the reason that I think we teach it, or that it is, as important as it is because it has the ability to transcend the facade and actually get in the feeling body. And so if we were to stick with my little statement, which I tell all my students at some point, the role of music, like what are you doing this thing for? Why are you wiggling your fingers over top of that instrument or sawing your arm over top of those strings? Like, what are you actually trying to do? And if the answer isn't, no, I'm trying to create feelings, then we take a little more time to try to get to the root of that, because I think that's really the only good thing it's for. And so if that is a definition somebody's willing to entertain, then I think the Lullaby Project's just knocking it freaking out of the park. And what's so interesting, which is another thing I love to be reminded of, is who is it accessible to, and how much virtuosity do they need to pull it off? And really, it's accessible to everyone, and you maybe need no virtuosity. Like maybe we don't even get close to that word, and yet the base role, like what all music, I believe, what all music is designed for, what it's good at, is getting into bodies and squishing us, making us feel tighter and making us feel more open, the tension, the release, the push me around, the make me feel heavy, make me feel light, all of that kind of work. And you can do it with really limited technique and, in really novice background, as adults or as little kids. Like everybody's got that potential. And then oftentimes, particularly with my students who are performers, then we say, well, so then what's the role of virtuosity? And virtuosity, or learning your good technique and getting all your notes placed and being able to read all the things, it affords greater expression. So I can make an even bigger display or share even more complicated ideas if I can develop something about my instrument that lets me share with even greater nuance or clearer precision or more specific tone, or all the different things that we're studying in that. And so, but it's not virtuosity first, and that's, to me, deeply Dalcrozian. We don't even let people bring their instrument to class half the time. We make them bring their first instrument to class, their feeling body.
Francoise.
Yes, I had a question for you too, Claire and Sean. Do you sometimes, maybe I didn't understand everything, but I was wondering if you start sometimes by having those people improvise or just sing with or without words on I don't know, on one chord or on something, or just a cappella, I don't know. Do they start with that, or do they also have the confidence that beyond their songs and all what they can create, they can also, when they have their baby in their arms, just sing whatever comes at the moment, with the feeling, the emotions of the moment, and the words maybe which would come with that?
In opening circles, yes, we try and get them singing as much as possible. And either that's a sing along or we just start with a simple melody and then ask, okay, like, can someone think of another way to sing this with this motion, something like that? I don't believe any of the parents we've worked with have improvised like within the songwriting session so freely. I think a lot of people are pretty it takes a minute for them to feel that courageous. I think they have ideas, but I think it's just being in the room with a stranger, basically. But yeah, it's.
I think. Oh, sorry, Claire. I think one of the ways that we can kind of bridge that gap between that point where someone feels comfortable generating on the spot, like to sing or suggest things in that moment versus saying, "Hey, what about this?" is we employ what's called zipper songs. You may be familiar with, just a song that has a standard like format that you would just replace one or two words from, and we can get suggestions. That's a good way, I think, to see for someone who maybe not be used to improvising, to be generating something on the spot that's less immediate and less urgent, but they could still see immediately implemented into a musical setting that is still new because they just generated the idea, but still has some familiarity because we might have just done that song with different words or a different, slightly different melody, or played a different way.
It's so good. We could now sit and brainstorm for an easy 45 minutes more about ways to teach a song, ways to improvise, ways to help brand new singers or brand new improvisers feel like, oh, I actually have range, I have options, and I have a way to do it that is safe and hopefully playful, which I know was worded earlier in your process. There's so much here that we could talk about. One place that you could go and think about improvisation is in Francois' new short course that's coming up here shortly. So whoever's watching this video, I hope you all register for that. I'm sure there'll be some of things there. We're at time. We had no trouble filling an easy hour here. And actually, I'm so pleased that we were able to take a whole meetup just to talk with Claire and Sean and to learn a little bit about the Lullaby Project. Lullaby Project has a couple web pages out there. If you type in Lullaby Project, you'll find the one at Carnegie Hall. You'll find the main Lullaby. Is there a Pittsburgh website?
Yes, lullabypgh.com.
Great. And so anybody watching, please go do a little bit of extra research. If you'd like to reach out to Claire and Sean, probably through their website, but you can also reach out to us at the VDM, and we'll gladly put you in contact with them. They're the most lovely people, and we're so happy. I'm so thrilled to have them in Pittsburgh and to be friends. Everyone, thank you. Claire and Sean, thank you. Catherine and Francoise and Theo, thank you so much for joining us and for contributing to the conversation. Fumiko Honda Bowers class is coming up pretty soon. Fumiko specializes in working with the little littles. And so we're really excited to feature this masterclass coming up because we haven't had anybody really do any long form teaching thinking about that age group. So anybody watching the video, sign up for Fumiko's class and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks
Thank you, everybody.
Much.
Thank you, Claire and Sean.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Soon.
Everybody.